friends, and welcome back to a very exciting episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast, with your hosts, Jamie and Mark.
We are here post Royal Rumble weekend. Normally aren't one of our favorite pay-per-views or premium live events. This one had a little bit of a different feel, and we'll get to that. I think we're just we were talking about this right before we started. I think we're just going to jump right into it.
Let's get the bat out of the way.
Right. Everybody is talking about what's going on in WWE with the allegations coming up against Vince McMahon. A couple other names have been thrown around in there. It's an unfortunate situation. I feel like it'd be stupid for us to not address it. We have this rinky-dink little podcast that people want to listen to our opinions. Might as well throw our opinions in there. They're not very different than anybody else's opinions.
Oh, sure. Matter. The general consensus is it's a horrible situation.
It's an absolute terrible situation. Yep. Something that I don't think anybody was entirely prepared if you look into the gritty details of it, which we're not going to touch on.
No, but these are allegations you don't come back from.
These are not ones that you really, it's a pretty steep slope down from here. Mm-hmm. Just the names that have been put out there, the individuals that are involved, and the individuals that are probably still haven't been named yet. I'm sure they will all get their due justice, but and Jamie and I kind of almost got into an argument a little bit earlier about this. Everybody that is involved in this needs to get justice brought to them, like end all be all.
Regardless of who you are, superstar, doctor, security guard, like whoever you are.
And it doesn't matter your caliber
wife
either.
of somebody. If you know something, it's very important that everybody needs to say something and everybody needs to be held accountable. Absolutely.
With that being said, we do have to understand that, number one, this is a legal matter. Therefore, nobody, unless you are involved with the matter, is an expert on it. So, of course, what we say is merely just either speculation or opinion. But it really boils down to it's a responsibility for everybody in this situation to remember that just as many people are being affected by this situation directly, there are now people within WWE, because they have a giant black eye on themselves right now. There are individuals that are in the WWE that are involved as employees, or, like you said, wives of employees, husbands of employees, that are now going to be affected by this. So kind of take that into consideration when you're talking about this amongst your peers, that it's, number one, not the entire organization, but that is affected by this. It's just... You just got to be careful about how we talk about these things.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? And we just wanted to bring it out there. It's a terrible thing that's happened, that's arisen, and I couldn't even imagine the people that are involved with what they're going through. But we just wanted to bring it up, make our positions known, and just, that's really going to be the last we're going to talk about this. We don't want to dwell on this. We always try to focus on the positive of wrestling, and there's a shitload of positivity in professional wrestling right now. So we're just going to put this behind us and move forward. Jamie, what do we got this week?
Well, let's talk about, again, the positive things that are happening in the wrestling world. One of them being absolutely huge. 30 years, Raw has been on national television.
What is it? The longest running, I don't want to say sequential TV show. It's the longest running TV show that hasn't stopped in 30 damn years. I mean, the only one that could rival it is, I believe, The Simpsons, but they had a period where they weren't producing new Simpsons episodes.
Right. This says literally never stopped, and it's always been on national television. And now WWE has announced that in January of 2025, that Raw will be moving to Netflix.
Netflix?
Crazy, right?
Oh,
and that's in the United States. Now, depending on where you are, you might get SmackDown, you might get some of the other, NXT.
That's going to be the home for international WWE viewing. So all of our friends in the UK, all of our friends in Ireland, over in like everywhere. I think they named a bunch of countries. And then they said that there's going to be more added as time goes on.
Correct.
But I mean, Netflix. This whole thing came out of left field.
It was very interesting. They said maybe Disney, a couple names kind of came up.
Disney to me made sense because I remember, call me, age myself. I remember when Disney was rumored to want to buy Marvel. Mm-hmm. And back then, I remember I was really big into comics, and we used to go to Seventh Inning Stretch. And I was talking to the comic book guy, and he was like, "This is great for Marvel." And I remember the general consensus was like, "This is terrible because
Right.
you
You worry that
Disney.
It's going to be watered down because it's a kids company representing something that doesn't need
company
to be
that has now space war.
Right.
It
has increased exponentially.
Oh yeah, the production, the production value, the amount of Star Wars that has come out. So it was one of those like that to me, like honestly, that made the most sense to me, was that it would go to Disney and it would be a part of this conglomerate that they've become.
Mm-hmm.
But out of left field, they just pulled Netflix out of their back pockets. The service that I used to watch, like Sons of Anarchy, when you used to have to order the DVDs.
I did the same with Dexter.
Or Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Like
you watch like 3 episodes and you send it back.
You used to have to, when Netflix was a service that you could order DVDs to be delivered to you in the mail at a monthly subscription price, and you had
the more you paid, the more DVDs you got.
Right, you could only have so many at a time. And when you got done with one of the DVDs, you would put it in an envelope. You would go on the internet and say, "Hey Netflix, I'm sending this one back." They would send you your next one. You would send that one in the mail, and it was like you just constantly every few days got a new disc. And now it's to the point. I'm in my mid-30s, and now a program that I watched when I was 10, 11 years old is now going to be featured on that service. Nuts. It is now going to be on demand. That means that brings up the question, how much of the catalog are we talking? Are we talking the entire thing? Are they moving everything there? Can I go there and watch all of the WrestleManias? I mean,
I don't know. That's a huge question to ask. Can
I'm
you watch
assuming
all the
that's what it
NXT?
is.
Can you watch all of that? And what does that say for somebody like Hulu that already has rights to stuff like that, to Peacock that was doing the premium live events? And I'm pretty sure the premium live events are going to be going to Netflix as well.
Right. It's going to be all featured on there as well, which, again, that means that international viewers can watch it on, just like Peacock, on a streaming service.
Correct.
A lot easier than the pay-per-view model or anything else. It speaks, like, this is great news for WWE and professional wrestling, but this is like the turning point of the way that TV is digested. This is one of the biggest TV programs that is making the jump from national television to a streaming platform. And it makes a lot of sense because cable is, you always hear cable's dead. The cable's not dead, but it's definitely declined in the past 10, 15 years. And this is just the way that a lot of places go. And I mean, we've even got over in AEW. Tony Khan has recently been talking about a fast channel or a fast.
I think it's a free ad-supported television.
Right. It's a much like Netflix. It's a streaming service, but
it's completely free. So you
Pluto
basically
has that. You have
correct.
There's 100 of them out now.
So basically, you'd be able to go on this streaming service and go back and watch everything that's AEW AEW and ROH related content. Just be able to watch some ads and watch everything for free. So personally, I'm totally into it. That means I can go to a place and watch all of the Dynamites I've never seen before. We didn't start watching AEW until 2020. So all of 2019.
Assuming that they would be able to put their catalog on
that was what was said, that Tony Khan said.
Right.
In this interview that we had read.
And also you have Ring of Honor.
All the back content as well.
Ring of Honor already has a system like that in place with the Honor Club, where you can go back and you watch the past 20 years of Ring of Honor, including all the pay-per-views, including all like the specials, every one of the televised episodes they have.
They have a couple sections where it's like the Briscoes and it goes over some, promos they've done and matches they've done. So that would be kind of cool.
So, I mean, this is, I can't see how this isn't a good move for WWE, but it's definitely one of those ones I wasn't ready for. When you told me that afternoon, it was one of those, there's no way that you're, like, what do you mean they're on Netflix? Like Netflix? Like the streaming platform that came from DVDs? Like that just, it blew my mind. What crazy. A good move, though.
And a live program, no ads, airing on Netflix.
I think it's going to have ads.
No, it said no ads.
Really?
Said no ads.
I will believe it when I see it. I mean, WWE, you know them, they'll put a branding on anything, including commercials, picture-in-picture.
Netflix got smart and they've already started increasing their prices.
Immediately.
They're planning on
immediately, as soon as they announced that, the next
help.
Day, Netflix threw us an email saying, hey, guess what?
Yeah. So that'll be what happens. Now, within the next year, it'll go up a few more dollars, and then they'll say, well, you get, free ad-supported content or non-ad-supported content. In addition to the Netflix shows you can get this. But that's huge for Netflix because now they can have other sports on there potentially, or
and they already have that to where NFL, MLB, and NHL are on different streaming platforms.
Sure.
One thing that's talking about different.
I'd love to be able to go on there and watch a hockey game on Netflix.
Yeah, right.
How crazy would that be?
Speaking of other platforms, though, brings up the question: how much of their audience are they going to lose because a lot of people have either boycotted Netflix for whatever reasons,
sure,
or have just don't have Netflix or don't want to pay for it. Like, why do I want to pay for another service to watch WWE? So I think the casual fans, like my stepfather,
I was going to say like your stepfather, that's perfect.
That watches only SmackDown and only watches the one match during SmackDown. You're going to lose your generic audience.
Sure,
but I think in doing so, you're now going to strengthen the quality of your fan. You're going to trim the fat a little bit off of, the fan base, and ones that are just there, the ones that they're a view. That's all they are.
Sure. And what's interesting too is if you put something on a streaming service like that live, are they able to not have that television rating? Can you bypass that? And now they're able to not really have an issue with blood or weapons, and is it going to be not as watered down as it is as when we were kids? I mean, we grew up in the Attitude Era, so blood and tacks and steel cage matches were no big deal. These things don't happen often in WWE. What if that gave them a different opportunity to come at it differently and say, we can do this now? That
doesn't do anything for the family-friendly aspect where their money really lays.
Well, absolutely.
So I think that's something that, but that is a good point. I haven't thought about that. You can push the boundaries a little bit more without being on national television because you're on a subscription service.
Sure.
That subscription service can kind of do whatever really it's allowed to do within legal limits.
Or maybe they say, the last hour of Raw is going to be
the adult version.
Yeah,
put the kids to bed.
Yeah, a little bit more stepped up. So if you're not really wanting your kids to do that, I mean, why wouldn't that work too? Kind of having a content warning. Yeah,
they've toyed with that idea because you've 3 hours is already a bloated enough wrestling show.
Sure.
And it would be able to do it that way to where that last hour it's like this is the the cage match. This is the I quit match. This is the grudge match.
AEW's done it where it's like lights out.
Yeah, the lights out match. Like Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa.
The last hour is lights out, and it's just
it's
no
unsanctioned.
Yeah.
It's within our facility.
Yep. Roman Reigns will still be champion, and he'll fight on that too.
Yep.
Before then, so don't worry, you'll get your Roman Reigns content. Put the kids to bed, and then you can come back. And by then, who knows who's going to be wrestling for WWE?
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. The landscape of WWE is going to change significantly over this next year. I said that last podcast, but especially now with the news that just came out, like I'm sure we're going to see a large change in a lot of different things.
Well, and Vince has stepped down. We said that he's completely left the company, and this is the first time in 50 years that a McMahon does not work for WWE.
The closest thing to a McMahon, as far as we know, that works for WWE would be Triple H, who is married to Stephanie McMahon. I know there's now the rumors of Stephanie McMahon possibly coming back to the WWE, but again, anything is just nothing but rumors and speculation until we hear 100% from the horse himself. But this streaming platform is going to open up a lot of doors for Netflix, and it's also going to open up a lot of doors for WWE. The contract is for 10 years with the option for Netflix to cancel at 5 or to extend to 20. I don't know if that's
insane.
They get to extend to 20 or anywhere between 11 to 20 years. And it's said that the price for all of this was $5 billion.
That's huge. Hopefully they'll take that and step up. Not that their production game is horrible, but step up the production game. Step up, the things that they can do with that money. It's not pocketed between, the people that get their pockets fluffed. It's used for.
I think they're.
It's used in the right way because, man, $5 billion, that's absolutely insane. That can go really far. So it's going to be interesting to see January 2025. Everybody's going to be at least hitting the 30 days free for that Netflix plan. It's going to be like hitting the gym. You're going to have to watch that first month.
Right.
And be like, what is going to
a new
happen?
Participant. Well,
and for 3 months, they're not going to have any network covering the show.
Right. There is a lapse. Their coverage with USA Network is going to end in October. And their new deal with Netflix
September.
is going to start. Okay, September, and their new deal with Netflix starts in January. So there is a 3-month period where WWE technically doesn't have any TV rights. Don't know if they'll extend their contract for an additional 3 months, or if something else is going to happen, or
It'll be on YouTube for 3 months.
I mean, I halfway sleeping last night, I was thinking about this, and kind of thought of like, what if they just said, you know what, for the next 3 months. We're taking time off.
It's
shutting
very
the show down.
possible.
We're letting everybody
We're giving
heal.
the superstars
restructuring.
month. Yep.
It's not going to happen. They would never do that.
They could, but they could
But they
completely
100% could. And this is the
rebrand.
only chance they could. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do with those 3 months, and then it's going to be very interesting to see how expensive my Netflix bill goes up come January 2025, and then it's going to be a very interesting next few years for professional wrestling.
And really, it's been a very interesting week. Other than Raw going to Netflix, we also got in a huge announcement that Dwayne Johnson is a part of the TKO
Call
board
him
of directors.
by his given name.
I did, Dwayne Johnson.
No, that's his biblical name.
We also got to see like you said before, the Royal Rumble 2024.
Yep.
One of my favorites that I love to see every year.
Started off with the Women's Royal Rumble, which I was kind of surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I figured they were going to throw in the Men's Royal Rumble just to give that ambiance of, it's spoilers if you haven't watched the stupid thing. Cody wins and he's going to be eyeballing the fatal 4-way later on.
The lineup of this WrestleMania Royal Rumble was odd to me.
Are you talking about the women's or the men's?
Well,
or
it started off with the women's, and then we got to see what I thought was the main event, which was the 4-way.
Yeah, they fired that one off real quick, but I felt like
really
that.
weird.
I think that went in conjunction with another show that was just happened to be on at around 9:30 on TBS,
and they had a steel cage match going on, which was really fun to watch both at the same time. Then afterwards, we got Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul, and then we got the Men's Royal Rumble. So
you were so mad at Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. Let's go. Let's back up. Let's get Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. All right, so
let's back up.
Back it up, Terry. I never want to toot my own horn, but Toot got this entire pay-per-view right.
I got the whole thing wrong.
Champion, hanging this thing above my head.
Well, obviously Roman won, so I got that right.
Everybody's gonna get that one right.
That was an easy one.
I'm still standing on this is exactly what they needed to do with Logan Paul. He gets the win. He needed the win anyways. You needed him to carry this belt to Mania, so that somebody who deserves that belt will get it. Yeah, it is the biggest stage. Logan Paul, I'm sure, has made it very, very vocal that he wants to be a part of Mania.
Right.
If you're going to have a contract and be in a high profile and a champion with a celebrity, you might as well put it up on WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. He brings faces and asses to seats. You can't deny it. But give him heel, like Lex Luger status heel. Like nuclear fire, melting heat, heel heat.
That wasn't it here.
That wasn't here? Him getting the win today?
Nuclear heat? Well, I mean, it pissed people off.
Oh, it totally got people.
It pissed people off.
It shut down that entire stadium. What are you talking about?
That stadium was very, very quiet.
It was.
And being somebody that was born and raised in St. Petersburg and yeet.
Sorry.
I've been to Tropicana Field a few times. It's usually pretty damn loud.
It is. Florida is usually
silent.
A raucous crowd whenever you have, especially that they had 40,000?
40,000 people, and
I think
it really was
like 40,044 or something. It had a lot of fours in it.
Yeah, because Pat McAfee said it's so weird. 44,044.
That's right. But yeah, they were very quiet. But this, Roman won, and nobody was happy about that.
Unanimous boos, 3 ones in the front,
But then when Logan Paul
respect to the tribal chief
won by disqualification.
Yep. I was screaming. I saw the brass knuckles. I saw the whole bullshittery go down. It's exactly what you thought. It's exactly like
and then they did exactly
the ref
what you didn't
bullshit
think they were
for the Roman
do.
Reigns match. And then they throw in the brass knuckles.
So
Kevin Owens gets it.
Good. I loved it.
Hits Logan Paul, and he gets caught with it, and it's a DQ.
I loved it.
I am furious.
She's flipping tables.
My hair is literally standing up straight. I cannot.
She's yelling. Neighbors are calling the cops, thinking she's abusing me. No,
it was nowhere near that bad. But I was actually really upset.
I thought it was great. I thought it was the best way you could get Kevin Owens to lose without him looking up at the lights. It was the best way that Logan Paul could win without actually winning. It was the best
My eyes are
thing
rolling so hard.
that you could do with such a powerful heel. So good. So good. 100%.
So good.
Was not my moment of the night, but was 100% heel moment of the night. Like, I loved it. I think it was the greatest ending to a United States title match I have seen ever. That was so good. I don't care. Hate me if you want, at Gunk Dudley. I don't care. Hate on me. I thought it was awesome. But the Royal Rumble, back to the Women's Royal Rumble. This by far
started off the night.
This by far took, like, the entire Women's Royal Rumble, I thought was better than any other match.
You know, for not being a Logan Paul fan in general, I don't like him. Like,
I don't like
as
him
a
either.
person,
Let me
can't
put
really
that in
get
the
into these
forefront. I don't want
matches.
anybody to think that I'm a fan of Logan Paul.
Yeah.
I think he is a terrible human being.
I
And
thought
when
he actually had a decent match with Kevin Owens here,
He
though.
does way too good.
That was actually
at
my
this
favorite
sport.
match.
He does way too good at this sport.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying it wasn't a bad match. There was so much more storytelling in the women's than
It was
there was
good.
in this.
It was good. My only problem with the Women's Royal Rumble is it felt like it was 2 hours long. It was very
did.
slow. It took what felt like
The first-
10 minutes in between the people coming in. It was very hard to get into at some points.
The first 10 people were great. From about 11 to about, I don't know, probably Jade Cargill was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when you hit 24 and Valhalla came out,
Oh my God, let's talk about it. I forgot this was even a thing. We didn't have it written on the board. My boy, our truth came in at number 24.
Judgment Day music, or, our Truth music and all, with his Judgment Day t-shirt, rolled into the ring.
Moment of the fucking premium live event.
They had to tell him it was the Women's Royal Rumble.
So good. So good.
That was a great moment, but we did get the debut of Jade Cargill.
Right.
Still unaffiliated as far as brand-wise, but I'm very happy that she did get a huge pop. People were very excited for her when she stood there and looked Bianca Belair in the eyes. Ooh. I think the whole entire wrestling community went, let's fucking
Goosebumps.
go.
That's going to be a good match.
Absolutely.
We also had TNA Women's Champion Jordynne Grace.
Yes.
Was a participant, which was a very nice surprise.
The return of Naomi.
And the return of Naomi. And I've got to say, when I saw Jordynne Grace and Jade Cargill going face to face, that one, and Jordynne Grace and Bianca Belair. Mm-hmm. That one, both those, I would love to see a couple of matches between those three women.
And there was a lot of really good teases for potential matches that spawned from this Women's Royal Rumble that you can definitely continue with.
But I think,
and Becky...
Ooh,
was heated.
Becky was good. I like Becky in this.
Yeah, she was heated.
I think Nia Jax did an amazing job. I'm not a big fan of Nia Jax, but I am slowly starting to become a fan of the wrestler. I think she did a great job coming in there and doing exactly what she was supposed to do. And I really, really enjoyed the idea that the whole idea was that Nia Jax was the big show, the Goldberg, the big individual that's going to come in and just clean house, take her, and everybody was like, oh yeah, we're going to have 15 women gang up on you and throw you out. And it's always that thing. You always have to have, like, half the Rumble has to gang up on the big person
of course,
in order to throw them out. And they couldn't do it this time until Jade Cargill came out, and she took her a little bit, and thankfully Nia Jax was able to grab the rope, but
she helped.
They were able to put Jade Cargill over with just that one.
Correct.
You had Nia Jax, who just eliminated
that was
8
enough.
people.
Right.
And then Jade Cargill comes in and says, nah, and tosses her over the rope.
That was huge. That was absolutely huge.
You also had Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez made their debut in.
They both did a fantastic job, I think.
main roster premium live event.
Yeah, Tiffany Stratton especially looked great here.
As well as we saw Liv Morgan come back from injury. I think she had a knee injury.
Oh, I can't remember exactly what happened to her.
I don't remember, but it's good to see her back. She only lasted about 6.5 minutes. But Bayley, man.
She deserved it.
Bayley,
with 7 eliminations.
That we were looking at these numbers. We've got it pulled up here. Nia Jax eliminated 8 other women. Bayley eliminated 7 other women.
Yeah, that's half the roster.
They eliminated
half the
half the
Royal Rumble.
Between 2 women. And then Bayley ends up winning. She went the longest amount of time with 1 hour and 3 minutes and 3 seconds.
Yeah, and this is for a women's Royal Rumble ever. She beat Rhea Ripley.
As well as Naomi did.
Correct.
Just previously, and then she got thrown out, and Bayley lasted a little bit longer. But a lot of really good little storytelling. You had Kairi Sane and Asuka came into the ring and wasn't, the most welcome by Bayley. I think she was kind of under the understanding this was her opportunity. This was her chance to, everybody else in Damage Control's got a belt.
Right. Dakota Kai's hurt, so.
Right. This was, her chance that she could win the Rumble and then get a shot at, I'm guessing, Mommy's belt. Bring that home, and then all of Damage Control would have the, shiny belts. And they even said they were going to have Dakota Kai, when she got back from injury, go for the NXT Women's Championship.
Right.
So then all of them would have belts. And then when she saw Asuka comes in, and then later Kairi Sane, she kind of was like, what the hell?
Yeah, what are you doing here? And what was interesting, too, is she clearly did not state who she was going after.
No, she didn't. And also... At one point, you had pointed out that Asuka went for a high five, and Bayley just kind of left her hanging there for a second. Like,
it was the other way around. Yeah, Bayley went for a high five, and Asuka just walked right past her. It was like the whole entire time, the attitude was just stacked up against Bayley.
Right. And I think this is playing more and more into Bayley turning face.
I think that she needs this.
I really think, and I said it last week, I think this is going to turn into she is going to slowly build up resentment towards Damage Control. And then eventually, when they're expecting her to claim that she wants to go after Mommy's belt, that she's going to go after
Io Sky's belt.
And
they're going to get their WrestleMania moment, which is going to be fantastic. But I still feel like, even though it didn't happen that way, that Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley still 100%. Needs to happen.
I think it's still going to happen strictly because Rhea Ripley made it vocal that she wants Becky Lynch to win.
She said, I'll see you at WrestleMania. So let's hope that, maybe Mobby comes out on Raw this week, which would be tonight if you're listening to the podcast when it debuts. If you didn't know,
every Monday morning.
Thank you very much. It would be great for Mommy to come out and say, I really don't care that you didn't win. I still want you to be my opponent.
Or even vice versa. You have Becky Lynch come out and still throw that challenge out, saying, I think you're better than me, and I need to prove that you're not. I still like that promo. Even thinking about it gives me chills.
Chef's
I
kiss. Perfectly
still think that
executed.
Was the best way to set up a rivalry between the two of them without the fluff.
Exactly.
You give it the importance of two of WWE's top women just looking at each other and saying, I need to be better than you. It's the same dynamic that you had when Charlotte and Rhea Ripley faced last WrestleMania.
It was a great match.
It really was. They had a small amount of history, and they were able to take that and go, you know what? It's my redemption.
Yes.
And she won that belt from Charlotte, and now it's Becky's turn to do the same thing.
Well, and Becky can lose here, and it's no big deal.
I don't think she will.
You think Becky's going to win from Rhea?
I think Becky's going to get the belt.
That'd be huge.
I think it's going to be Becky and Rhea at Mania, and I really, really do think that Becky is going to walk away with that championship belt.
Wow.
Rhea can, both of the women can take the loss, but Rhea has enough momentum that come on.
I think Rhea loses and the dissension of Judgment Day begins.
Exactly. They kick out Damian Priest, and then Finn Balor and JD and Dominic all get on her nerves, and she finally goes,
Rhea
I'm so tired of all this bullshit.
But before we get into the men's Royal Rumble, let's take a few minutes to talk about the four-way that did happen between LA Knight, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles.
It's a mouthful. It's a lot of
I'm just staring at the ceiling trying to think of all their names.
Right. It went exactly as you thought. Heels did heel things, faces, which was the other three, did face things.
They worked together to try to get, Roman out.
Solo Sikoa showed up. It just, it was your cliche bloodline match.
It was.
Again, the odds stacked to the roof against Roman Reigns, still comes out on top. I think the only interesting thing was there was one spot where we thought that Solo was kind of doing some shisty stuff. They did a spot where everybody was piled on top of each other. But it looked like Solo had pulled, I think it was AJ Styles on top of LA Knight or vice versa.
Yeah, something like that.
And if the referee would have been paying any bit of attention, that was an obvious pin. Which you never know. That might be something that, it might have just been to set that spot up. It might have been to set the spot up and fuel both speculation about Solo trying to screw over Roman Reigns, or AJ saying, "Well, I pinned."
I'm still on that
for the belt.
I'm still on that train, and I'm sorry.
What's
I know
that Solo?
The train is on its tracks, and it's got the American Nightmare driving the whole thing straight to success,
straight to Tattoo Neck City.
I just really think it would be cool if Solo took the belt from Roman.
I would too, but I think they've already made the decision where they're going with this.
They have. Now, what was really fun and we hadn't thought about was we got to see some interaction in the ring between Jimmy and Jey Uso.
Yep, they were both number 1 and number 2 in the Men's Royal Rumble.
So, not to toot my own horn, I was correct on something.
A lot of horn tooting.
Yeah, a lot of horn tooting. I was correct in this one. When Jay came out, of course, the crowd was going absolutely apeshit. He knows how to get everybody going crazy. Of course, day one, Jey Uso comes out first.
Right.
Which was
main
just
event.
Awesome. I loved it.
Main event, Jay.
But then instantly I thought, what if Jimmy comes out?
Like the words left your mouth.
They have
and
this
Jimmy's
interaction in the ring where they get to tease their match at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And I really do think that's exactly where it's going.
You think so?
Yeah. Jimmy versus Jay at WrestleMania.
I mean, they've expressed,
it's a huge tease.
They have expressed Uso versus Uso would be like their dream match.
Yeah. They have done it. They did it on SmackDown.
Right, but not Mania.
Not Mania.
Which
not
I
on
think,
a level.
Whether you disagree with this or agree with this, and in the general consensus,
no interference.
The Usos
this time.
are one of, if not the greatest tag team in all of professional, or all in at least WWE wrestling.
Hands down.
To have this be like the big crescendo that these guys gain from their career, like they have been tag team champions.
They are the longest running tag team in WWE history.
They are Raw, SmackDown, and Universal Tag Team champions.
Just the bloodline in general.
The only thing you have not done is have these two have the match they deserve.
Exactly.
Brother versus brother. Who wins?
Who wins? Because of the trajectory of Jay, I have to say Jay, because he's already managed to be the first person in I think over 3 years, maybe 3.5, to actually pin.
Not in a singles
Roman
competition.
Reigns. No, not a singles competition. But nonetheless, pinned Roman Reigns.
Right. Last person before that was Baron Corbin.
Yeah, and FTR was in that match, which shows you how long it's been.
Formerly the Mechanics, formerly, was it For the Revival?
Fear the Revival.
Fear the Revival.
Again, shows you how long it's been since Roman Reigns was pinned. But yeah, it was indeed Baron Corbin. I think it needs to go to Jay. The momentum behind him, the crowd loves him. He is somebody that in singles action I think is going to do really, really, really big things. Him having a belt around his waist in singles competition would be great. Not that Jimmy's not great. Jimmy's fantastic.
Right.
But as crazy as it is, Jay turned his situation around real life and was able to be one of the top performers in WWE.
Right.
Kudos to him.
Now, what happens when Solo gets involved?
Little
brother gets involved, and he has to now pick.
Cage match, and nobody can.
That doesn't
enter.
Stop the bloodline.
They have
Cage matches,
They
Hell in
have
a Cell,
to let it
goes.
just go that way.
I don't know. I don't know why recently you've been on the opposite ends of things.
Yeah.
I think the opposite. I think Solo needs to be torn between brothers, because those are both his older brothers.
Sure.
They're twin brothers, so that means they've been around in his life the exact amount of time. They're very identical in a lot of things they do.
Well, and he's siding currently with Jimmy.
Right. I just think it would be a cool thing to have him somewhat involved in the match.
Oh yeah,
in the
because
decision
then you
of the
can
match.
do Solo and Jay versus Jimmy and Roman.
That'd be good.
You know, you can have that. Oh, two brothers and two brothers. Really,
After Roman loses the belt, he's not going to be around WWE for a while.
He might not be ever again. Like, I really would not be surprised if he went and did the movies, television.
Could you see him as a movie star though? Like, I
could. I
don't know if I don't know. It's going to be a hard sell for me to. You want to go see the new Roman Reigns movie?
You know, I never thought The Miz could be a movie star.
I don't think I've ever seen any of his movies.
I've never seen any of his movies either, but obviously they've made money or they wouldn't have continued to do the Marines.
Well, yeah, they're WWE movies. So Roman is still the Universal Champion. I don't think if anybody had their money bet against him, I think you're a fool. But now the Men's Royal Rumble main events: the Royal Rumble, which kind of makes sense.
Sure.
They've done it before where it doesn't main event, which kind of doesn't make sense seeing as how the pay-per-view is named after the event.
Understandable.
And it was a pay-per-view event. It wasn't the best Royal Rumble. I gotta say it outright.
No, and
I was entertained.
Yeah.
I was entertained.
There was a couple of really good opportunities to get a very unmotivated crowd hyped.
Right.
There was 2 opportunities that I feel like they failed at, and it was not having Cody win.
Or having Pat McAfee be one of the participants.
Okay, that was the third. So let's start with Pat McAfee, okay? To have him come into the Royal Rumble, not a bad idea. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think the way that they did it was absolutely horrible. And by the time that Pat McAfee was in the Royal Rumble at number 22, I was already just heated is the nicest way to put it. So Pat walks in, he's staring at who? Omos, Braun Breaker, and I don't know, a couple other big guys. And he eliminates himself. I'm so mad about that.
Right.
They absolutely drop the ball when they have who is the king of Royal Rumbles. When you think Royal Rumble, Kofi Kingston is the guy that you have to talk about.
Not to interrupt you, but that is from the minute you said Pat McAfee until just now. That's how long he lasted in that Rumble match.
That was so awkward and pathetic.
But yeah, back to Kofi.
Kofi Kingston.
Legendary Royal Rumbler.
Yeah, so the last couple of years, he's had a few very unfortunate mishaps. Yep. He always kind of teases him putting one foot or toes on the ground. Or
he stood on pancakes one year.
It's been the craziest thing. People catch him and he comes back in. That's his thing. That's his thing. So the last few years, he's had some mishaps.
Did do with Chelsea Green, which I thought was neat.
But he never got that Royal Rumble moment where he almost doesn't go over and gets come back. He just got straight thrown out.
Now, one defense in that is that this is a different Kofi Kingston we've been seeing since Xavier Woods, and obviously Big E's been out for a while.
Sure, which he unfortunately did not come in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that was one thing I got wrong. I was really hoping he was going to show up as number 30. But
best intentions, that's all.
I was excited to see Sami Zayn come out as number 30.
And
that was
awesome. Absolutely was too. And this is the time where I was like, oh, great idea. Sami Zayn number 30. What better way to get this crowd super hyped at the end of this Royal Rumble? He lasted 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And he never did, a haluva kick, the Blue Thunder Bomb,
he took out Damian Priest.
He took out Damian Priest.
Only noticeable. I mean, that's the only elimination.
And then he got eliminated.
Yeah.
And I was really bummed out about that too. So I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities in this one. I did like to see Andrade. I don't know why. I had forgotten he was going to come back to WWE. I think he did a great job.
Yep.
He was kind of having an interaction with Santos Escobar, which is kind of cool.
I thought that whole thing was funny.
Yeah.
We also had Braun Breaker was afforded an opportunity. He wasn't originally scheduled for the Royal Rumble, but there was a sudden vacancy as of probably Tuesday, Wednesday, that allowed him to come in and do the job of the individual that was supposed to be in that spot. And I think they picked a great person to do that, especially on short notice. You're trying to build him up like a Goldberg-style individual. And no, it wasn't Goldberg. You're trying to build him up like this big powerhouse, like we were talking about, your Nia Jax, your Jade Cargill in the Women's Royal Rumble. He is that quality of an individual. And he came in and cleaned house. He threw out 4 individuals, which
Same as Cody.
I was going to say was tied with the most eliminations of the Men's Royal Rumble. He looked great. People popped for him when he came out. I think that they've done a great job putting Braun Breaker together. I don't know if we're going to see him move up into the main roster, but real good to see him put in a position on such short notice so that he can prove that he is the caliber of individual that needs to be elevated, like a Gunther.
Look at the people he eliminated.
I mean, yeah.
He eliminated Jimmy.
Right.
He eliminated Finn Balor. He eliminated Ivar. And he eliminated Omos. Which
Omos is a big dude. And
those are big guys. Ivar's huge. I mean, that's pretty cool.
All of them are larger dudes. There are it puts a status on him. He now has that it's Braun Breaker. He threw Omos. He threw Ivar, 2 of the biggest guys that were probably in the Rumble. It was just it was good to see a few of these guys. Really, other than that, there wasn't really too much beyond CM Punk and Cody Rhodes's intertwining chapters of stories,
What a crazy situation there. And to think, 3 years ago if you would have said that CM Punk and Cody Rhodes would be in the main event
WrestleMania or Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Previous to WrestleMania 40.
Yeah. I mean,
last two individuals in the Royal Rumble were most previously AEW employees.
Correct.
And I mean, I'm not saying that as a dig towards WWE.
No, it's just factual.
Yeah, it's just an interesting concept. However, I gotta say, when CM Punk had Cody Rhodes in what looked like the final, this is it, it's all over, and he yelled out to the crowd, "There's no way I was gonna get beat by Dusty's son." I mean, it was like, okay. You might as well have just, handed me the spoiler sheet. Because at that point, it's like, he's going to win. Like, something like that's the most evil, like, I've got you now gadget thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
And of course, I'm going over next. Yep. So.
And he does. He goes over next. Cody Rhodes wins. He is now not only the winner of this Royal Rumble, but the fourth individual to consecutively win Royal Rumbles.
And so nobody has done that in 26 years. The last person being the man, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What? So, I mean, it went exactly as predicted. I feel like this, and again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I feel like this premium live event went exactly as it should have gone, and it's exactly how it was the most predictable.
Very predictable. Possible. Very predictable. The question arises.
At least, you know what? The only one I'd give away would probably be the Women's Royal Rumble. I got a good guess on that.
No, that was fantastic. This now has the question of, clearly Cody Rhodes has challenged Roman Reigns. He was there. Him and Seth were watching above in their box seats. He definitely looked at Roman. Roman was like, "Who, me?" I don't know why. And that really says something, because they were definitely teasing up that The Rock was going to be facing Roman Reigns. What do you think's going to happen with that now?
I mean, there's Elimination Chamber in Perth, and to be honest with you, they're going to a new market. Not a new market, but a market that doesn't get a lot of love.
Right. That really wants the love. They're a lot like the UK, that it's like, please, if you come here, we will support it.
You bring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to Perth to go against Roman Reigns, you'll sell out the biggest stadium they have there.
Well, and Mommy's from Australia, so you already know that match is going to be absolutely incredible, so whoever it may be.
Do you think that would be Becky Lynch and Mommy? I don't think that would be worthy of it.
You don't think it's a big enough stage? I also don't think it's a big enough stage.
I think the story's bigger than that stage.
Yeah.
Even though that is Mommy's home turf.
Well, and I guess maybe this is an opportunity to not really pick a random person. Can you go back up to the results of the Women's Royal Rumble? I just want to kind of throw a couple names and look at this. You'd have to put somebody in there that, like, the same as if you do Rock versus Roman.
Right.
Whoever is going to be facing these two,
Jordan Grace,
are not going to win.
No.
They're not going to win. The Rock's not going to beat Roman before Cody does. And nobody's going to beat Rhea before it would be Becky. So they're kind of like, I hate to say it, like cannon fodder.
Who's the sacrificial lambs?
Yeah, who's going to be the Chad Gable to Gunther in this situation?
I could see Jade Cargill.
Jade Cargill would be great.
She made an impressive, debut in her Royal Rumble. I think that would be a real good, way to put her over even more,
that would be
taking
fun.
the loss,
You could definitely put Bianca Belair in that situation, and she can take a loss and it not be any issue. It's Bianca Belair, so that would be a great match. Zelina Vega's gotten her moment. I thought that was fantastic at Backlash. You got to put somebody who's really, really strong in there.
I mean, you could put Nia Jax in there as well.
Who else? Naomi?
Valhalla.
She lasted 5 seconds, by the way. Did she end up beating Chelsea Green's record?
I don't think so. I think Chelsea Green's got something like 3 seconds.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
Close. I honestly don't even remember Valhalla getting into the ring, which is horrible.
Well, it's because R-Truth went in.
Well, yeah, I know, but 5 seconds, I didn't even remember her getting eliminated. I blinked, and it was gone.
Yeah. So
I don't know. There's some good opportunities here, for sure.
I mean, we'll have to just kind of see how, as we build up towards Elimination Chamber, which I think is in the end of February.
So you really only have a month to build up.
About 4 or 5 weeks to build up to it.
To build up, a half rivalry in the meantime. You can do that with The Rock.
They've built up more meaningful things with less time. Mm-hmm. So we'll see when come Elimination Chamber.
Well, and you put The Rock versus Roman Reigns on there, it's already going to be a moment that everybody is going to feel like they need to watch.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the whole thing. You bring The Rock on there, plus Roman, it's a draw. Everybody that is
Yeah,
that
Mommy's
there's
there.
not going to want to miss that because they don't ever come to to Australia to begin with.
You got to
And
have
then you've got a
Bronson
high
Reed
profile
fight.
Like that. Oh yeah,
He's got to be in the elimination
chamber. It's going to be
chamber.
so over the top. It's going to be unreal. But I don't think it's going to. What do you think they're going to put Rock in the elimination chamber? With
The Rock
Roman?
in the elimination?
That would be dope.
No,
I could see that.
No. He's not defending it in the elimination chamber. No way. So obviously, like we said, WrestleMania main event: Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Is this the end of the story for Cody Rhodes? Is it happening? Do you think he's going to take the championship from Roman Reigns?
Well, once the story's finished, does he start a new one? Is he done? Does he retire?
And I guess that's my worry.
Is he going to be Tom Green on MTV and hits number one on TRL and just says, now that we've hit number one for this entire week, I'm retiring it, and it goes down in history as only, one of the best music videos that's ever happened?
Yeah, he hasn't been there for long enough to be like, well, that's it, I'm leaving.
It's
an
interesting
like
topic because where do you go from? You have had one of the most prolific championship run by the Bloodline / Roman Reigns for the past 2.5, 3 years.
Whether you like it or are still into it or not, it has been a prolific moment in wrestling history.
And now you build up, the next face of the company.
Sure.
And I think it's, I don't know. I haven't really thought of it, honest to God. It's one of those things that it happens so seldomly that belt ever will change. That I think
hard to imagine it would.
They've become hardened to the idea of him losing that belt. So I don't know if anybody's ever given any consideration. Okay, Cody gets the belt. CM Punk gets the belt. The Rock gets the belt. What do you do?
The heat if Cody loses again.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, they'd have another situation on their hands.
The heat.
So
wow.
Royal Rumble Saturday night. We had another show going on regular cable television. AEW Collision. The main event.
One of the best shows in wrestling right now.
Was a steel cage 6-man. They said elimination match. It wasn't really an elimination match. It was just a 6-man cage match. And I guess they kind of confused elimination with if you go outside of the cage, you have left the cage. And if all 3 of your members of your team leave the cage, then you win. Or you can pin or something. I don't know if because it's very. There was no real set rules, but it seemed like it was you had to leave the cage.
Right.
But what a match to have. And the only reason they put this on Collision for the main event was 100% combat against the Royal Rumble. And it honestly was one of those ones where we were going back and forth between the Fatal 4-Way and the Steel Cage match. And I got to be honest with you, strictly knowing that Roman Reigns was more than likely going to take that belt and go on his way, I could not stop watching this cage match.
That match had me.
It was great.
The great thing is the storyline that's involved with it enough. You know, like the months and months and months of just the House of Black just teasing FTR.
Pestering him, FTR.
Constantly. And it coming to this was perfect. And it was so strange, like I said, when they announced that what I thought was the main event was happening with the 4-Way.
Right.
And the only thing that made sense to me was that exact thing was they were trying to compete with people trying to watch the steel cage match. The steel cage match was absolutely incredible.
It was
they
really
did a great job. And it's tough when you have 6 people in a match. We talk about this a lot where you can pay attention to the multiple things happening at one time, and that's the nice thing about being trapped in the steel cage is you have to fight there.
It's consolidated.
But it started right away, and a little bit earlier in the night, Daniel Garcia did get beat up.
Supposedly.
He had a bloody nose, was off camera. So he was unsure if he was going to be able to medically be cleared for this match. Jay Briscoe did step in and say that he was more... I'm so sorry. Mark Briscoe did step in and say, I love you guys, FTR. I'm more than willing to help you guys out.
Didn't quite work out for his
make
favor.
It did start off with Mark Briscoe helping FTR out, like I said, but he did go through a table.
But I think that was
immediately.
I think that was great because he came out there. FTR had already made their way down into the ring, and just like you had said, it's always difficult for 6 men to be in a ring or women to be in the ring and have the focus be able to be shot by one camera. This now allowed to where it was strictly a 2-on-3 match, so you're gonna have either 2 men and 1 man against one individual, or you're gonna have all 3 beating up the other 2. So you finally you eliminate a third of the camera angles you need to shoot
and
by
consolidated it all together.
Mark Briscoe into tables and eliminating him pretty much for the entire match. Daniel Garcia comes out. Oh yeah, it was awesome. He was coming out, the lights went out, they came up, did their spoopy, scary fire thing, just beating him up. Great, absolutely wonderful. The match proceeds with just a 2-on-3. Halfway through it, Daniel Garcia comes down with his bandaged head, just bound and determined to beat some ass, and he did. Him and Malachi Black, they were the last two in the ring. Holy shit, these two. I want to see a singles match between these guys.
Oh, I loved Cash Wheeler. I think Cash Wheeler did an absolute great job. They all did. But it coming down to Daniel Garcia and Malachi Black was so important. It wasn't the way that I thought it was going to go.
Right.
But obviously Daniel Garcia, his whole head is taped up. He's just messed up already before the match even started. He's gone through a beating. He's been misted at this point by Julia,
which was a
Malachi,
good touch.
I loved it. She blasted him, his entire face all the way down his neck.
Oh yeah, sometimes you miss, you get like the top of the head, or he went from eyebrows to nipples was
doused.
Just solid black.
And Malachi was getting ready to leave the steel cage, and Daniel Garcia yelled at him. He had the steel chair and yelled at him to basically finish him off, to come back.
It challenged him.
Yeah, and challenged him. And Malachi took the bait and came back in for Daniel Garcia,
which I think
it turned around hard on him.
I think speaks volumes, because you have Malachi Black, who is a calm, cool, collective, and destructive individual.
Yes, and he's a smart, calculated guy.
He can go from kneeling, or I'm sorry, from sitting in the middle of the ring cross-legged to taking your jaw off of your face with a heel kick in half a second. But Daniel Garcia was able to get into the chinks of his armor and was able to provoke him enough to open up an opportunity, hits him with a nasty pile driver on that chair, and is able to crawl up and over, get out of the ring. And you said it, and I can't disagree with it. 2024 is the year of Danny Garcia.
It is.
He is going to dance his way into singles championship gold, and I really think so. Ready for it.
And it's so crazy because the Continental Classic ended up being such a great story for Daniel Garcia. He only beat one person.
It was great,
but
it was terrible for him at the
Brody
same
King.
time.
That he was able to beat, which
and
is
all of this is stemming
incredible.
from that.
It is.
That's what's is. And we talked about this when the Continental Classic ended, that this has opened up storylines that avenues you can go about.
Brian and Eddie are still going at it.
That's right. Danielson had that match against Nagata for right before this main event. But the Continental Classic built storylines like Daniel Garcia and Brody King. He was the only one that he was able to beat, and now it's been a thorn in the House of Black side ever since. Brody has had a chip on his shoulder about this. He has had numerous interactions with Daniel Garcia, and every single time Daniel Garcia is able to best him, come hell or high water.
Absolutely.
And it's the most the most underdog story when it comes to these, because when you look at them, they're polar opposite. You looks like you could fit Daniel Garcia inside of Brody King.
I know, it's so insane.
Getting one over on him, and I love it. And
it's that Star Wars moment with Luke Skywalker.
Right, just
climb on inside and stay warm.
It's so good. It's so good. I love it, and it's done such a good job baking into this rivalry that's still not done.
It has, and what's really crazy too is like, the House of Black cannot bring Daniel Garcia down, but out of these three men who are just huge and pivotal in AEW, did Julia Hart just better Daniel Garcia by missing him?
I don't know. Is he going to have to go?
Like, what's going to happen there?
Is he going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of the Black Mist and
Willow
have like an infected eye? Yeah, I mean, Sky Blue fought it for a little bit, and then she didn't fight it. Julia Hart fought it for not that long. Pac fought it. So, I mean, this is another one, and I really think that this was Malachi Black's overall plan was to, and he always brings up that he's trying to bring out the best in everybody that is, he's trying to make them realize their potential, and looking at Daniel Garcia being kind of, I don't want to say a joke character, but taking a bit of a comedic aspect to him, and Malachi Black looking at him and saying, no, just like how all of us have been, no, you're a professional wrestler. And I think this might be something to where we're going to see a bit of an edge come back to Daniel Garcia.
He's not necessarily,
that Red Death. Where's the Red Death? And
he's not necessarily going to be a part of House of Black, but it's going to push him. He might be the Black Death. Ooh, I like that.
So you...
I really like that. But just to kind of push him in the right direction to better himself.
Right.
Just like Malachi wanted.
Getting those wins that he deserves instead of those the losses that he ends up obtaining from chicanery.
Yeah, overall losses don't matter when it's a new year.
It does now.
It does now.
It does
'cause we do
now
have
with the
the
ranking system. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. So I'm
Put you one in the fridge.
I'm very glad to see that Daniel Garcia is getting some time. The steel cage match was amazing. We also had Adam Copeland took on Minoru Suzuki. The murder grandpa came to town and beat the ever-living hell. Both of them beat the hell out of each other.
Could you imagine being Adam Copeland? Like, I don't know if I said this last week, but the idea of just being like, hey, Tony Khan, I'm going to shoot my shot. I want to fight Minoru Suzuki.
What do you think about this?
And he's like,
let me know.
Let me get off the phone. When I get off the phone with him, I'll let you know what he said.
Right, I'll shoot him a text. Because you know damn well Tony Khan grabbed the NJPW cell phone. Because I feel like Tony Khan has got like, I feel like Tony Khan's
got a Jaguar's phone.
Do you ever think that Tony Khan is playing a character? Like, okay, Vince McMahon, bad name be damned right now, back in the Attitude Era, had a character. He was this...
Hey, Stone Cold knew all along that Vince was a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, everybody did. But he had like this bravado character there was Vince, or Mr. McMahon was the character. Do you think that maybe there might be a chance that Tony Khan is just playing this overly enthusiastic wrestling fan that runs a wrestling company?
Honestly, no. I just think that's Tony Khan. I think that he should lean into it, and I love that again that the Young Bucks have.
I love what he does. I love what he's got the big glasses, and he's like, "Hey, you guys need to cut it out because I own this company."
That was a good tease.
It was so good.
The roster has now changed. It says Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, and it says executive vice presidents underneath their names on the roster now too. I think Tony Khan should totally lean into it, but I do think that Tony Khan is just a huge dork that loves wrestling like the rest of us, and happens to just
that's why he was able to set
company,
up. That's why he was able to set up Suzuki Minoru and Adam Copeland.
Yeah,
and I think you were going to bring up earlier.
Why you said his name like that,
you. But he didn't find out about the match until it was on social media, wasn't it?
Well, what happened was he threw the idea out to Tony Khan. Tony Khan was like, well, let me make a phone call. I'll let you know. When Tony Khan
I'll call Tanahashi.
in real life, when Tony Khan in real life got off the phone with Minoru Suzuki, he played the card on, I think it was Dynamite.
Right.
And we all found out about it before Adam Copeland. Adam was in the back. He had no idea. And John Moxley just happened to walk up to him and was like, hey, he got that match. And Adam was like, what match are you talking about? He's like, oh, Suzuki. He's coming next week.
Yeah, like, I've got a week to prepare?
Right. So I think Bryan Danielson was like, well, hey, while we're shooting our shot, Yuji Nagata, like, hey, so it's so
you're
cool
you're already chartering one flight. What's another one?
Fly him over with him. It's just crazy to think that there's like this huge open door. I mean, similar to TNA and WWE working together. That was just really cool.
I was so excited to see her come out of the Royal Rumble. I mean,
especially with Naomi so close in there and them having they hugged and then they just started fighting.
It was the shortest hug. It was like, hey girl, good job. I'm going to beat your face in.
Well, and, obviously, Jordan Grace just took the belt from Trinity not too long ago.
What a passing of the torch, too. She gets the belt,
Jordan
and then she gives her that moment to where it's like, hey, welcome back. Get back to business.
Yep.
She's got a lot.
That's what I'm here for.
I really think Naomi has got a lot to prove. She made that statement. She walked out of the WWE.
Yep.
She came back. She needs to put her foot down and put her ass in gear and get into the main system. Like 100%. They need to push her.
Putting the Kabuki Warriors as a tag team champions is a great start for the women's division, for what Naomi and Sasha left for.
Women's division. We're talking women's division. The AEW's got Mariah May.
I was going to say, are we going to talk about Mariah May?
I don't know what else to talk about. I mean, she's smoking hot. She's great in the ring.
That match with Lady Frost was incredible.
Lady Frost, she's awesome.
So well. Every time we see her, I absolutely love her.
And then we also have Megan Bayne coming back to AEW fold.
My God.
She's been in Stardom for us past a little bit.
Ooh, the women's division is about to take off. And
I need Britt Baker back.
Any of the rumors are true, and Mercedes Moné is coming in too. It's going to be nuts. I mean, Deonna Purrazzo and Toni Storm.
Oh yeah, it's 2024.
Incredible.
2024 is going to be one of the best years of professional wrestling.
Oh yeah, it's the year of the women. It's the year of Danny Garcia.
No more McMahons.
And no more McMahons. It's a year to celebrate.
It is.
It is a year to celebrate. All right, friends, I think that's going to do it for this episode. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us across all social media platforms at CAW Wrestling Pod, or just find us at coffeeandwrestling.com. Feel free to follow me on X. I'm at A Bacon Party.
And you can find me on X at Gunk Dudley. And make sure you start your week right every Monday with a fresh episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast posted 4 a.m., so it's up before you are. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in the next episode.